Hey friends, how you doing? Good? Awesome. Last time we talked about the 3 first initial steps of being a devil's advocate, and if you missed that episode, go ahead and click or tap right there to watch it now. But moving forward, we need to stop. I know it's kind of counterproductive, but this is a serious topic and we need to stop, because when we're looking at those first 3 steps, the overarching theme is comfort. If someone is going to be honest with you, they need to be comfortable with you. If they're going to take your challenge seriously, they need to be comfortable with you. And far too often are the opposing sides not comfortable with each other. For example, I'm just looking at President Trump's Twitter account right now. And even just from that sentence, there's going to be people who are hostile towards me. They're like, not my president. Semantics. Anyways, just looking at his Twitter right now, there are people who are saying they love Trump, that all of America is with him, that he did no wrong, no obstruction, and nothing. And despite, the facts that came out in the Mueller report, there are going to be people who are constantly believing Trump, no matter what he says. And then on the other side, if you look at these things, there are people who are calling for his impeachment, calling Trump corrupt, calling all of the people who are around him just goons that are following orders, and just there's nothing but corruption, moral efficacy, and he's profiting off of the presidency, and they're just, it's vile terms. And often you'll see on the two sides of Trump supporters, they're generally just going to be saying they're nothing but bad things about the Democrats. They're like, Democrats are evil, they're libtards, they're not intelligent, they aren't seeing the truth. And then on the opposite side, they'll say things as Trump believers are brainwashed, they're gullible, they're stupid, they're absolutely just a cult who doesn't think for themselves, to the point where they embraced terms like deplorable and racist and bigot, and they're actually using those terms as pride flags now. It's a weird world we live in. It's really freaking weird. And you can start to see how much the two sides hate each other, and there's other topics and other debates where people are less contentious and it's easier to establish that comfort. But if you're trying to establish comfort on the political mountain and try to talk to somebody on the other side, it could basically be like climbing up Mount Everest and you're just seeing dead bodies of all those people who tried. Myself, who's somebody who tries to sit in the middle, it's not easy. I'm getting attacked from all sides because people are just like, how dare you not completely resist Trump 100%? And even though I definitely consider myself a resistor, it's like, well, let's still try to listen to our American brothers and sisters and see where they're coming from. Even though I still don't understand why anybody would use the term deplorable as something to be proud of. But here we are. So when we're getting into these 2 things and you're seeing the dead bodies as you're climbing up that mountain and you're trying to establish some civility, it could really make you think, just like when you're on top of Mount Everest, that there's gotta be a breaking point where you just need to turn around. Otherwise you're gonna die. You're gonna lose your mind, and in this sense, your absolute sanity dealing with these people. And that's why most people on social media, they tend to just block out other people that disagree with them. If you're on the resisting side, you're gonna block out Trump supporters, or as they're commonly referred to, maggots. MAGATS, if you haven't seen that. I don't know why I did that opposite. And then if you're on the Trump supporting side, you're going to be blocking any of the resistors or the blue wave, or libtards, as we talked about earlier. And there's no point where either one of the sides is listening to each other. And so how do you even establish comfort? The first point in establishing comfort with each other when you're on opposing political sides is first agreeing to terms of debate. And this is not likely going to happen on social media, just forewarning. Like, you gotta have a very special person. These are conversations that you want to have in person. If you're going to establish those rules of debate, you're going to establish a baseline comfort where you're both going to be able to build off of, because you're both coming to this game to play by the same rules. There's been done countless studies, and I'll list a few in the description, where they have shown that playing games with each other establishes a massive amount of bond, and especially between family and friends, or just parents to children. If you're playing a game with somebody, you're both agreeing to play by the same rules, and there's going to be some kind of semblance of fairness, and whether you lose or win, it's wonderful bond building. And so just establishing those rules of debate is going to be fantastic. Some rules that I suggest would be no name calling. Just get rid of the whole maggot thing, get rid of the libtard thing, and just try to look at each other as much of a human element as you can. We see this in the anti-vax debate currently. That there's people who are pro-vaccine, such as myself, who are trying to be like, let's try to talk to these people. Let's try to get facts into there. And then there's other people who are pro-vaccine who are just like, no, these people, they're not even thinking about reality in any sense. And even if we both can agree that our opposition are technically human and they're good and they're well-meaning, they're not operating within reality of facts and morality. Like, vaccines don't kill babies. Like, obviously, there's gonna be always that exception to the rule, all right? There's gonna be that one child or one person that dies because of the vaccine, and that is just because we're not all built the same. But that doesn't mean that vaccines as a large will always make people sick, will possibly kill them, you know? It doesn't mean that vaccines are always gonna create mental illness. Yes, there's always that minute little possibility. Just like when you buy a thing of berries. If you go to the store, you buy a thing of strawberries or blueberries or raspberries, and you're always going to find one of them that isn't just about right. Or if you bought them on sale, that one that has like possibly the mold in it. Yeah, there's always going to be that one that's a little off. And that's just the same thing with medicine when it comes to that. There's always going to be that one person, but the thousands of the rest of us that aren't affected that way, we can't always account for the outlier. Okay? Just like when you buy berries, you can't always account for that one little berry that's just a little slightly colored off, or maybe it's not as ripe as the other ones. There's always going to be that one. But once you've established those rules of debate, whether it's not name calling, whether it's using actual facts, verifiable facts, or maybe something as simple as we're not going to raise our voices. Once you've established those rules of debate, the next step in establishing comfort is committing to a time frame. I know this can sound very simplistic and just kind of like, what? Why would I establish a time frame? But if you establish a time frame, that's further putting into the comfort of a structured little segment. I'm going to talk to you about this for the next 30 minutes. And then after those 30 minutes, we could talk about something else. Let's talk about sports, or let's talk about something that we both have in common, or stop the conversation. It's important to get into the mind frame of this doesn't have to be all that I have to offer to you. My political stance doesn't have to be the end-all be-all on how you see me, just because I, using myself as an example, am on the left. I am a resistor of Donald Trump, and I'm very, 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 very pro-choice. That doesn't mean that's all that I am. I'm also a father. I'm also a very diehard horror fan, and I love puzzles, especially jigsaw puzzles. If you want to meet me at a coffee shop and let's sit down for the next 5 hours and go through a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, I'm all for it. All right, I even have some unopened ones in my closet right now for these occasions. Call me up, let's go get coffee. And then maybe we could talk about politics, but establishing a time frame helps reaffirm that idea that we're playing by the same rules and we're going to be holding to them. And so if we get to that 30-minute mark, or that however long you want to talk about this, and we can both agree to stop, then we can establish even more comfort of like, okay, maybe I don't want to talk about this, but I only have to talk about it for 5 more minutes, or once these 30 minutes are up, I no longer have to talk to this person ever again, and I can just leave with what I believe, and it also establishes an emotional comfort of, I can listen to them for this X amount of minutes, whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever. You just have to listen to them for that long, and then boom, you can go back to your echo chamber. And so there's that comfort of, I'm not going to be sitting here getting into a fight with this person for hours on end. I'm just going to be sitting with them for just a little bit. And establishing comfort, as we said, when you're climbing up that mountain, you're going to see a lot of dead bodies. When you're trying to establish comfort with people that are inherently going to be hostile towards you, yeah, there's going to be failures. There may be bickering fights. There may be those people who break the rules. We see this in all forms of competition. We see this in all games. Everything that has rules, there are those people who are going to break them. Just like back with that berry box, there's always going to be that one little berry that just doesn't sit with the rest. And one of the hardest things about being a devil's advocate is that, again, and I've said this in previous episodes, you're not going to be able to reach everybody. There are people that are going to be so close-minded and so shut off to the entire world that they're just not listening to anyone that doesn't agree with them. And even those that agree with them, if they don't agree 100%, they're going to shut them out. I see this all the time with talking to people who are pro-guns. Like, they hate the idea of gun control. They're like, boo, no, we shouldn't ever control guns. And when you get to those people, there are some of them who you can talk to and are reasonable and be like, let's talk about reasonable gun control, something that makes sense, strengthening background checks, putting month-long waiting periods on buying guns. So you buy a gun, you go through the background check, and then you have to wait X amount of months until you get that gun. Maybe you can pay for it up front, maybe you can do a payment plan, but you're still going to be waiting. I would personally like to see a year-long waiting period where you buy the gun, whether it's at a gun show, at a store, whatever, that you don't get that gun for at least a year. You technically own it, but we have that year to investigate you, make sure that you're mentally well, and talk to your friends, family, all of that. That's what I would like to see. And there are some people on the gun rights side that agree with me, and they can see the understanding of how bans aren't going to fully work because this is America, and there are those on the gun rights side who are like, no, any gun control is bad for the Second Amendment. It's a horrible violation of my human rights as an American, and we can't have any control. And so you'll see that even on sides, and to use another example, on the side of the resistors, I'm a resistor, but there are those of people on my side who are like, if you even talk to a Trump supporter and you engage with them, you are violating our terms of agreement. And so there's always going to be the extremists, okay? They're out there, but there's those of us like myself who are willing to engage with the extremists. But for you, definitely establish that as your own comfort zone. If you're not comfortable with going out there and talking to the extremists who aren't going to agree with anybody, don't. Let that conversation symbolize one of those dead bodies on your climb to being a devil's advocate. Don't be brought down by that. Like Mount Everest, with all the dead bodies up there, they're just going to be there forever. Those are something that we can learn from. But as with Mount Everest, there are people who've gotten to the top and they've gotten back down. And this is the same climb, and you can't carry everyone with you. So don't. Make sure that when you're establishing comfort with anybody, establish those rules of engagement, establish a time frame, and then make sure that you are comfortable with those. That's the last part, is just making sure that you have that personal comfort, because maybe you're not comfortable with dealing with these extremists. And I am. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just we all have our own different comfort levels, and we need to understand them so that we ourselves can be comfortable in asking them to be honest with us and then challenging them, going back to those first 3 steps of devil's advocacy. And again, if you haven't watched that episode, click or tap right there, because these kind of go hand in hand. And with that, thank you very much for watching to the end of this episode, and I'll see you next time. Bye, friends.